We have breaking news for you out of the South Bay, where firefighters are working to get a retired sheriff's dog out of a 30-foot well.
NBC7's Dave Summers is there, and Dave, we understand that the dog was making some noises at the bottom of the well, so that's encouraging.
Yeah, it is encouraging. Mark and Monica, the dog is alive. The dog seems to may have injured its hips, and the dog is trying to communicate with rescuers, not barking, but just kind of, that low-pitched yelping in a way. He's seated, we're told, as well. This is a hugely difficult rescue. The dog's name, of course, Indy, appropriately named. He's at the bottom of a hole, and that hole, that well there, is about 30 to 50 feet deep. It's about 4 feet wide at the top. What makes this rescue so difficult, Mark and Monica, is this. They're taking nylon rope, they created a loop at the end, and they're trying to just lower it down in there and get the loop around the dog's neck. This is a Hail Mary pass, frankly. The fact is they can't send anybody down there. If they were to send a firefighter down there, it would be against OSHA regulations. And if things went bad, it could be really bad because, we had all that rain. There's a very strong possibility of a cave-in. So they're operating very, carefully around the hole. And they're calling Indy and trying to get him to look up, because if they can get him to look up, then they can get that loop around his neck. And now, you would think, oh my gosh, that would strangle the dog. Well, it very well might, but if they can get the dog up quickly, we're told by humane officers that they can certainly revive the dog if that's necessary. And it's risky, but not as risky as actually putting somebody down in there. You can see how they're working it, right? So they have this, the extension ladder over top of the hole. They have a pulley system where they take the nylon rope and they drop it down in there. And the other difficult thing about this particular rescue is that hole isn't 4 feet wide and straight down. It's got some S-curve in it, and it comes out. So, getting it around those obstacles is not easy either. And of course, it's a race against time because it's only going to be daylight for another 30 minutes or so. Of course, there's plenty of light, but it just adds a degree of difficulty. These firefighters and the humane officers are hoping they don't have to deal with. If they could do this in this one moment, this would really be fantastic and just an incredible rescue. There's certainly plenty of people here. We have Bonita Fire Department here, Chula Vista Humane Society here, and we have plenty of help. It's just a matter of doing that, very difficult, getting that very difficult loop around the dog's neck and actually bringing him up. If that doesn't work, there's going to have to be a new strategy, and they haven't really talked about that or gotten that far just yet. The owner of the property, I want to tell you, the owner of the property bought this property a year ago, he told me, and never knew there was a hole there. It's not clear to anybody whether it's actually a water well or an attempted water well. Logic would dictate that you wouldn't have a well on top of the hill, right? You'd have it down there in the lower part of the property. That's, where the water would go. So it's hard to know exactly what that is. We do know there was a cement pad around the hole. So it was either used for something or was going to be used for something. But the owner has 3 kids and a bulldog of his own and has never seen this hole on this property, he tells me. This is a property that he rents out to dog owners to come and run their dogs if they want. He's had 120 dogs here already since November, he's telling me, and this is an issue that absolutely never came up. It's a rough day all around for the dog owner, for the homeowner, for everybody involved. We're just hoping for a successful outcome. Reporting live in Chula Vista, I'm Dave Summers, NBC7.
Such a difficult situation out there, and our heart goes out to everyone involved in this operation who wants to see this dog be successfully rescued. They're working against the clock as sunset is upon us. Do you know, you mentioned there were some S-curves to that well. Do they have eyes on the dog, or how are they getting eyes on him to get that loop around him so they can pull him out?
Sure, they have eyes on the dog. The owner of the animal, who was here running the dog when he slipped into the hole, was able to see him. Like I said, they could see him well enough in this light to see that he may have injured his hips, that the dog is seated on his backside and his head is down. But again, the dog seems to be trying to communicate with rescuers. So they apparently have a good view, but we're dealing with a loose nylon rope to get down in there, and that's just not going to be easy. It's never going to be easy. Not 50 feet if it's 50 feet deep. It's somewhere between 30 and 50 feet deep anyway.
If the dog is injured, you could understand why. I mean, what's encouraging about this as well, you think of all of this rain, and you thank goodness that hole is not filled with water, that they can see the dog and all the rest of that. So there's that. For lights, I'm sure it hinders things, but that's the fire department, so they're pretty well equipped with all of that. And it's also, we understand, a retired police dog, which means it's also well trained, so maybe they can sort of at least get him to stay calm and all the rest of that. And
Poor
we'll see
little
how
Indy.
it goes. Yeah, poor Indy is right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
so Indy's had plenty of situations that were stressful. The dog's canine, law enforcement canine are all tested under stress.
Right.
So yeah, you're right, Mark. Very hopeful that that he's okay down there, and it seems so, at least so far.
Dave, and we're all now completely invested in all of this, all hoping for a good outcome. So let us know what you see there. Thanks so much for your reporting, and here's hoping for the best as we continue to follow the story for all of you.
Oh, we want to see a happy ending for Indy. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. A rescue operation continues right now in Chula Vista, where a dog is stuck in a well at least 30 feet down. Welcome to the NBC7 News at 6. I'm Mark Mullen.
I'm Monica Dean, in for Catherine Garcia. This all started around 4 o'clock this afternoon. We've learned the dog is a retired sheriff's canine from Arizona.
NBC7's Dave Summers is there at the scene. Dave.
Yeah, Mark and Monica, we're a couple of hours into this rescue in Indy, as the dog was named after the popular movie character Indiana Jones, has been at the bottom of that 30 to 50 foot hole that long. Now, we have an update. Indy was sitting. We believe he's injured, maybe his hips, but he was sitting, and now he's laying down, making fewer sounds, less communication between the rescuers and the dog at this point. What they need to do is employ a second strategy, and that's what they just started doing. I'll try to walk you through it. So we have a firefighter on the extension ladder from the ladder truck at the top, and what he's doing is guiding 2 different ropes down into the hole, while you have firefighters around the hole to get a better view of the dog. They can see the dog from there. Now, they're using 2 ropes because one of them has a loop on the end, and it's meant to go around the dog's neck to pull him up. The other one has what's called a rubbish hook tied to it, and they're going to use that to kind of hook his collar and bring his head up to more easily get that loop around him. That's the strategy so far. They do have plenty of light. They brought light in, and they certainly have plenty of personnel as well. So how did Indy end up in that hole? Well, this is a property that's owned by Vince Carrillo, and he rents it out to dog owners who want to bring their dogs over here and just let them run. It's completely fenced in. So the owner of Indy was here, and Indy went running off, and he kind of got around the hole and was sniffing, and all of a sudden he fell inside of it. We talked to Vince Carrillo about that hole. Frankly, he didn't even know it was here when he bought the property a year ago. This is what he had to say.
Never. There's no words, man. I don't understand how that was even there. Never disclosed. I knew it was on septic. I know where my septic tank's at, but never a well. I feel horrible for the guy. I couldn't imagine if my pet fell in there, but more so, yeah, I'm very lucky that it wasn't my kids.
Yeah, Vince has a large bulldog, and he also has 3 kids. In all of the time that he's lived here, the year that he's lived here, it's never been an issue. He has rented this property out, he told me, to 120 dog owners to run the property. It was clear to him that it was covered with vines and with grass. The Indy's owner, Mark Pugh, also told me the same thing. In fact, when the dog disappeared down the hole, Mark went to the hole and almost fell in himself. So, you know, at this point, Indy seems to be okay. They are employing a second strategy, as I said, to facilitate the dog out. The problem is, Mark and Monica, they can't put a human down there. They can't legally put a human down there. This is a 30 to 50 foot hole that is not braced. It is against OSHA laws. And not to mention the fact that it is a huge risk if they were to try to put a firefighter down there, even, with a harness, a 5-point harness and rope, the whole thing could collapse in. We've had a lot of rain recently. So they can't do that. So this is what they're left with. This is what they have to do. And so, quite frankly, I was told that beyond this, there's not a lot of ideas left over. So we're very hopeful, sending the best vibes we can, obviously, the rescuers here, and that Indy can get out of there safe. Mark and Monica?
Hoping for the best. Dave, I have no doubt that crew out there is doing a terrific job. I wonder if they would consider calling the San Diego Zoo, right? Because, I mean, there's few people in the world that know how to wrangle animals in odd situations such as that. And I bet they've got all kinds of equipment there as well, if these guys even needed it,
For sure, but of course, all of these firefighters have, with all the wildfires that we've had, they certainly all had experience trying to get domestic animals, anyway, out of bad situations. Obviously, down in cavern areas and dogs that get trapped because of fires. These guys, as you said, they're ready. They know what they're doing, and they're certainly making a go at it.
All right, Dave, we appreciate the update. We are all certainly hoping for the best for Indy and are glad that this team is on it.
Okay, straight out to Chula Vista where we're following breaking news. Dave Summers is there as a dog rescue has been underway, and there's a big development. Dave.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark and Monica. They just literally 10 seconds ago were able to pull 9-year-old Indy, full-blood German Shepherd, retired sheriff's canine dog from Arizona. He was running in the field and fell into what turned out to be a hole 30 to 50 feet deep. He's been down there now for about 3 hours. Rescuers literally had to get a loop around him, and they used what's called a rubbage tool to lift his head, then put the loop around him, and then pull him up. It was too unsafe and frankly illegal to put a human down in there to get the dog. So they, for 3 hours, have been trying to fish him out, keep snaking those vinyl ropes down there and trying to get it around his neck. And finally they did it, and I'm so excited because there he is, and he's sitting up, and this is as close as I can get that they'll let me get, but he appears to be okay from what I could tell. Let me move him in without getting everybody else's shot. Okay, so he's laying down, it looks like, and he's covered in debris, as you might imagine. It was. Nobody seems to be sure about exactly what this was, whether it was an abandoned well or just a hole that was dug, but it was about 4 feet wide, went down 30 to 50 feet. There was no water in the bottom of it, but certainly a lot of debris, and that all came up with him, and he's really covered in it. So what's happening now, Bonita Fire Department here, of course, and Animal Rescue, they're getting down something underneath the dog so they can pick him up, because it's believed that the fall actually hurt something in his hips, maybe a leg, maybe a hip. But it was clear, they could see him from the surface, that he was injured, and he was not moving around, and after 2.5 hours he began to lay down, and at that point it got very nerve-wracking, because now the dog's laying down, we got to get a loop around his neck. How are we going to do that? They managed to figure it all out, thankfully, and they put about 8 guys on the rope, and right when they said go, they pulled, and straight up and out of the hole Indy came. The dog's owner must be absolutely thrilled. That's Mark Hugh. And I'm looking for him right now. He's right in front of me. Here he is. Mark, how you doing? How's he doing? So far, so good? Okay, so you can see him. They have rescuers on either side. Obviously, then he's not going to, be able to be put on a lead and walked out of here. They're going to carry him out and obviously get him to medical treatment. But Mark, you saw him there. He said the dog seems to be doing okay. And Mark has just been a real trooper. He's a retired Navy, and he got Indy through a breeder who was a friend of his, and the breeder asked him, hey, would you just like to have this dog? And he said, absolutely. He's had him for about 4 years. And he also has the dog's half-sister as well. Those two dogs were out here running around before Indy went down in the hole. But, oh, wow. I can't tell you how good everybody is feeling about now. You know, when we lost the light and the difficulty of what they had to do to get Indy out of there, there were a lot of grave concerns. But this is a success. This is a fantastic ending. Mark and Monica?
Oh, Dave, we are so happy to see Indy out of that well, and we were watching too during commercial break as Indy was lifted up and out, and we could see him kind of hanging there. But then as we were straining to see between all those people, we could kind of see, as your photographer zoomed in, him, you know, licking his chops and kind of moving his head around like what just happened. But what a great ending to a really stressful situation there that's been going on for about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I don't have to tell you. I have to tell you what a relief this has really been for the people here, the rescuers, the owner of the dog. Geez, even the media, everybody is here, and me included. You know, you start thinking about your own dog, and I can't imagine what that would be like. But fantastic ending. And what an amazing rescue when you think about what they had to do, right? They had to, you know, they had to take this loose vinyl rope and somehow managed to get it around the dog's neck, and they used a second tool. They used a second tool to lift the dog's head. Once they got the loop around him, up he came and out of the hole.
And Dave, we're seeing the video. We're seeing the instant replay as you're describing it here.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? So they literally they got about 8 firefighters on the rope, and they all pulled at once, and the dog just came straight out without issue, without a problem. They were concerned, I can tell you, that the dog may have been asphyxiated by the rope and he might have had to be revived, but was not the case at all. The dog, as you mentioned, you could see him. He was kind of licking his chops and certainly lucid and awake. And wow, that really couldn't have ended better for sure.
Wonderful.
You know,
I mean, there's
now the question is, you know, where does this whole Go ahead, Mark.
No, you. So, yeah, nobody knew that hole was there. I mean, the one thing I was thinking about as we were watching all of this and hearing about this was like, there's been so much rain lately. It's like this poor dog. You just don't want him to be neck deep in a bunch of water or
Right.
something worse. Or you don't want the walls of that tunnel to sort of come down on him, and it didn't. And all those guys and women just stuck with it and kept going. And how terrific to have a wonderful conclusion like that. He's an older dog, right? He's a retired police dog, so that dog's already deserved a nice, easy retirement without this.
And he, enjoying life as he was, as his owner was renting this space just for him to come out here and run. They had to retire him early because he had an eye issue. That's why he was retired. But still, German Shepherd, 9 years old. Certainly not old yet. And thankfully, as we talked earlier, these dogs are stress tested in the field. They have to handle crazy stuff. Loud noises from gunshots, small spaces, attacks, the whole thing. And thankfully, I have no doubt that training helped that dog, stay stable while he was down there, for sure, without a doubt. But about that hole, the owner, Vince Carrillo, indicated he had no idea it was there. It was not disclosed to him when he bought the property, which was a year ago. It was completely covered up with vines and grass. He's had 120 dogs, he tells me, that have rented the property to run on this property. He's got 3 kids of his own. This revelation was terrifying to him, on top of, obviously having Indy down there, and now, he's concerned for the dog owner, and it just, what a mess this was. But thankfully, as I say, as you can see, it ended with great success. And now, hopefully, let's just get that hole covered up and not have anything like this happen again.
Yeah, and some treatment for Indy, too. I'm sure he's got some residual issues that he'll be treated for at the vet.
And hopefully a nice, easy weekend with a couple of healthy steaks in his diet.
Yeah, something. He deserves
Well done,
something.
Dave Summers.
Yeah,
thank you for the
Dave.
happy ending. Appreciate it.